Welcome everyone to the already cancelled, I almost said atomic cinema experiment. This is where myself, me being Peter, and Tara, that being Tara over there on the other side of the screen, are going to talk about the Twilight Zone Season 3, Episode 3. It is called The Shelter. So full spoilers for the episode as always. And this one is about a set of families in a street in idyllic small town suburbia America. And in fact, I can be specific and say about 40 miles, give or take, from New York, because they mention it in the episode. And there's threats of bombs coming. And this one family have a bomb shelter, because one of them's just, he's a bit of a prepper. He's got a whole shelter in his basement ready to go. And just the psychology of what happens to all of his neighbors when they realize they don't have anywhere to go when this potential bomb is going to drop. And it becomes a fight for the shelter and a fight to try and steal it from the doctor and his family, or the main family. So that's the gist of it. So I shall start with how I always do. Tara, what did you think of The Shelter?
Yeah, it's pretty good, huh?
This is just pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those this one's written by Rod Serling, and
That Rod, not another Rod.
No. He and I are on a first name basis now.
Not Rod Jackson or Rod Simpson.
Rod Johnson. Yeah, this is one of the Rod specialty episodes. It's really good. It's not really supernatural at all, but it is super dark. There's a coldness that comes over the people that you just it's really compelling. You sort of know where it's going, but watching people deteriorate is always going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some similarities with the Monsters of June and Maple Street, and there's definitely some similarities with a few other episodes. There's a couple of really neat flourishes in this, which I'll get to a little bit later, that I think are really, really smart. But the ultimate thing of, okay, so they hear that there's something coming. I was surprised actually that the announcement on the radio wasn't like, definitely we think it's bombs. It was actually a lot more vague than that. It was like, oh, there's some identified objects. They could maybe be missiles, but we're not entirely sure. It was actually even more vague, which in a way maybe makes it more powerful what happens, because it's just a suggestion as opposed to... And the one critique I had of Monsters of June and Maple Street, which is still a fantastic episode, might I add, before anyone says anything to the contrary on my behalf...
You should listen to the review and decide for yourself.
Was that the introduction of the doubt came from a kind of a weird place. In this, though, because it's this warning from the radio... and because it is so vague, the characters kind of do it to themselves. It kind of, I don't know, this actually worked even better for me in terms of what the warning was, what the seed of doubt, the seed of paranoia, I guess, in this case. So, no, I think it's very good. I mean, I love that it starts literally with the main, I mean, it's not even the main character, because if anything, we focus more on the other characters, but the doctor... We start with his birthday party. They're at a dinner party for his birthday. There's a birthday cake, and there's literally one of the other neighbors, because there's four families, because there's like four men who kind of take the center stage of the debates. Their wives are just kind of there, and the kids are just kind of around. But this other neighbor is literally giving a speech about how much they all love the main doctor dude. They're saying how great he is. This is a speech celebrating him, and it's a celebration of friendship, of what he means to them. And I think that being it's just a smart bit of writing that that's how we start the episode, because then when everything turns and they all start trying to get into his shelter.
Within a very, very short period of time.
Oh, very short. I mean, because they even say that they expect the first bombs to drop within 15 to 30 minutes from the announcement. So the fact that all of this happens, not quite in real time, there are some time jumps, but it's not that much of a duration in real time.
Yeah. And I thought it was interesting that they included somebody. He looks like he might be like of like Latin descent, and like how quickly people are like, you don't deserve to live as much as my family because you are a foreigner. Like that side of people came out real quick, and I thought it was interesting that they even included that in this, because we don't really see very much of that in these episodes of Twilight Zone.
Yeah,
these early ones.
That felt ahead of its time. and
really did.
in the sense of it being willing to tackle it, it felt ahead of its time.
Hmm.
Because well, it's just, honestly, I mean, I have no idea what any of their names are. I just sort of knew them by their faces in the episode. But there's like a sort of the fourth guy is immediately starts being racist once they're starting to get into the shelter, and they're basically arguing, who's going to get the shelter when they go down, because it's not enough room for all of them. There's not enough room for all
Hmm.
four families down there. So it's like, well, there's really only room for one family, so who gets it? And it becomes this debate amongst them as well. Because there's a little bit before all this where, like, when they first find out, the others just leave, and our main doctor family starts stocking up on water. Which, by the way, how long do they think they're going to be down there that they think a few jars of water are going to be enough? Because they're talking about radiation, and I'm like, you're going to be down there a lot longer than like a week. You realize this, right?
Hmm.
This is going to be some time before you can come up. But you know what? It's whatever. I'll forgive that kind of inaccuracy, I guess, because it doesn't matter. It's not what the episode's about.
Maybe they just need some sort of supply so that they can reclaim it over and over
Oh,
again in order to
you think they've got
survive.
a urine filtration system set up, do you?
Probably. He's a doctor.
True, true. I mean, yeah, but hell, it's sterile.
I'm
If
sure he
nothing,
thought about it.
if nothing else.
They just need to have enough, yeah,
Mm.
of a supply so that they can keep filtering it out.
If I have a complaint about the episode, it would be there's just a couple of scenes. There's one early on when they first
Mhm.
go into the cellar and shut the door. There's a scene where the doctor kind of has a bit of a monologue about how, like, up there is different now, and it feels like a million years ago that we had all these normal dinner parties. And at the end of the episode, when he comes out after everything de-escalates, he makes a speech about, oh, but what we found out was maybe worse, and what did it really cost? And he makes this is the monologue about what we've learned tonight, and I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't need the character to kind of like actually spell out the point of the episode.
I agree. I didn't really need it either because you kind of get it from the context. He said, like, he literally says that the bombs didn't drop, but the destruction still happened. Like,
Yeah.
we got that. That's
Yes.
the whole
Yes.
that's the whole point of the episode.
Yeah. The whole point is that because obviously immediately as soon as this announcement comes at the end, when because they literally go and get a battering ram, and then they start
Hmm.
beating down the door, and they eventually, and just as they get in on the radio, it comes on, oh, false alarm, everyone, no missiles, and everyone sort
I
of
love how I do love how quickly all the neighbors were like, "So we're cool, right?"
well, no, this is what I thought was interesting is that
Yeah.
the guy who was the receiving end of the racism,
Mhm.
he I love that it kind of focuses on him, but before the doctor comes out of the shelter, it actually focuses on him, and the guy who was racist kind of like
He
start
got he got the worst. Yeah.
he tries to like apologize and be like, hey, things got crazy, I was scared and whatever. But obviously a lot of this is about, yeah, but surely this just revealed who we really are. The fact that when the chips
Right.
were down and things were scary, you immediately made it about this because it helped,
Hmm.
because you thought it would help your case. And
Yes.
I love that it focused in on this reaction first before the main doctor came out and gave a speech about them trusting each other, because their lives are never going to be the same. Two little key details here that I loved is that
Hmm.
when they come barging in with the battering ram, on the way down into the basement where the cellar is, where the storm shelter is, they actually topple over the dinner table where the cake is, where they were having the party earlier. They literally have to throw that
Yeah.
out the way to get in there with the battering ram. And then at the very end of the episode, as the rest all leave, the doctor and his family, it literally ends with them looking down at this table with the birthday cake, sort of. So this repeating visual of like the table and the cake representing the facade of life as they knew it. And
Right.
I love that. Those details are really well done.
Yeah, and I like the moment also in the shelter when they're in the shelter and they first hear all the neighbors coming over and stuff, and they're getting super aggressive and telling them basically that they're awful people for not letting them in,
Mm-hmm.
and the wife's just like who is that out there? And he's like, those are our friends, our neighbors, all the people who you know the people who love us, and and how quickly they've turned because of survival.
Yeah, there's actually a moment before they even go in the cellar where the wife questions if she even wants to go in the cellar. She's like, I mean,
Mhm.
is it worth like crawling out of this, hole in some time when everything upstairs is rubble? And the husband has to make a speech about how yes, but think of our son. He's only 12 years old. Like, he has to rebuild things. Like, we have to be here for him. We have to go into hiding for
Yeah.
him. Um, and if there's critiques with this episode, is that a couple of those monologues are a bit too on the nose. We don't really need them, and maybe they try and stretch it out a little bit by having this little section before the actual real story starts, where they're kind of questioning what they're doing. Because I was getting kind of tense as they were going out. Like, because at one point he sends the kid, "Oh, my toolbox is in the outside in the garage. Go get it, little Timmy." And I was like, "Oh, is someone going to try and swipe
Hold
the
them
kid?"
hostage.
Yeah, so they can get into the
Yeah.
cellar. I don't know.
I was thinking that too. Like, would they be forced to like sacrifice their kid? Because he says once the door closes, that's it. You can't open it back up.
Yeah. So all the human drama in this, all the actual conspiring. One of my favorite sequences in the episode is it's when they go back upstairs and they're debating. It's just right around the racist part. But they start debating and talking about what their plan should be, and they're talking about, oh, maybe we should go over to that guy a couple of streets over and get his battering ram. Which, by the way, who just casually has a battering ram in the house that you can the neighbors come, hey, can I borrow your battering ram, Jimmy? Thanks.
Yeah.
But some of the dialogue here was really eye-opening in a sense of these characters, because they talk about, well, yeah, but if we go and get the battering ram, then he'll find out why we need it, and then this other street is going to end up wanting to get into that cellar, and they can't have it. It's our shelter.
Right. It's
Our? So there's a lot of entitlement in this episode with these characters, and a lot of them basically wanting to, instead of, because repeatedly the doctor says to them, look, you don't have a shelter, but go and collect supplies, go into your basements if you have them, prepare best you can with what you have, and none of them want to do that.
Don't waste this time, because I mean, he's not in the middle. Like, look, I built this for 3 people. It can't support more than that. Like, you can't bring more air in with you. So if you guys break this to get in, like, you're still going to have the whole issue of, well, we can only have 3 people here to survive.
Yeah, and even just the idea that they spend this time trying to take something from him instead of trying to solve their own problems. It feels ultra real in a way that's honestly quite depressing. Like,
I agree.
This is the evil shortcut. We'll take this because this is what we'll get the best results if we can pull it off, even though it's completely inhumane and horrible and vile and everything else you want to throw at it.
If they were really like good people in their own hearts, they would have tried to have done their best to survive in the time that they had without sacrificing anyone.
Yeah. So whatever concept. Because I made a prediction last week and I didn't quite get it right. I thought they were going to murder the maybe not the whole family, but I thought maybe the doctor guy was going to get murdered, and then it would turn out to be.
I thought maybe it was going to be like a War of the Worlds situation where the Orson Welles radio drama version, where people who are just tuning into the radio didn't realize it was a radio program and thought it was real. But as soon as they go outside, you can hear like jets or something flying overhead.
Yeah, there's a lot of sound effects with all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so it does feel like there's some sort of national crisis going on outside at all times.
Yeah,
which is a good bit of atmosphere, because obviously a lot of Twilight Zone episodes, being quite relatively low budget for what they are, is we're in just a house, we're in just these simple locations. I thought this one does a really good job of really creating an atmosphere of the larger world outside without ever really seeing it.
Yeah, we get to see the neighborhood.
Yeah,
which is nice.
Yeah. But I'm just talking about the sound effect. I'm talking about the sirens and the jets and just things like that. It does feel like there's a crisis going on, even though all we ever really see is admittedly it's a large amount of characters for a Twilight Zone episode, because it's like 4 families of people, even if there's only a bunch. In fact, another little detail that I liked, when they're arguing about what to do over the table, one of the kids from the other families is just sort of like picking at the cake and like licking his finger.
Yeah, a couple of the kids are.
Yeah. It's just a simple.
I would do the exact same thing.
I mean, so would I, but I think again it goes back to this idea of them just taking something. This is the kid version of that, is just stealing a bit of cake.
Right. Well, I mean, the kids are getting along.
True, because they're all unified in
their parents did.
They're all unified in the desire of cake, but
yes.
What happens? The frosting in that cake did look pretty good.
That is the one unrealistic thing. Like, if you were going to go into a bomb shelter, you would have taken the cake with you.
I would have done, yeah. That's maybe the
Yeah,
last cake
you're
we
not gonna
have
leave
for.
good cake.
That's maybe the last cake we have for years. I'm I'm taking that bad boy in there.
Even bad cake,
Yeah,
you would take it
I look good though. All that frosting did look nice.
with you. Someone put a lot of work into it. I mean, they really love this doctor.
I like frosting. What can I say? I'm a big fan of frosting on cakes.
Too much frosting is no good on a cake.
I'll take a bowl of frosting. You can have the cake. I mean,
Ugh.
I like sponge. Don't get me. I like sponge cake. Don't get me wrong. But the frosting's the treat.
There needs to be a balance there.
All right, all right. Um, so no, that's a really good episode. I love basically everything it does with the drama. It feels like it's loaded with little character details and just all the little things that it's pointing out about racism, about tribe mentality, about this, like, just how awful people are when they're put in a situation like this and their real selves come out. All of this
Yeah.
stuff just feels like it's still super relevant. None of it feels like it's dated, almost at all.
Yeah, it's a little bit like you can never really truly trust people outside of your own family also.
I'm not even sure if that's true, to be honest, but I'm not sure I trust anyone that's in my family, quite frankly. But okay.
Mhm.
um, and I think what's interesting is you could have easily have done this story with the main doctor being a bit of a dick, right? You could have easily had them also be scumbags about everything, but it chooses not to. And maybe you could
Uh-huh.
argue that that's saying something in that because he's the one with the safety net, he has no reason to turn into an awful monster. And it could be saying that. Um, you know,
Well, I think he also just doesn't have as much sympathy for them because it's not like they didn't know he was building a shelter. They make
mhm.
fun of him for it in the beginning. So they had plenty of time to see what he was doing, ask what he was doing, and maybe, prepare for themselves. So, like, look, you had your time and you didn't take the precautions.
Yeah. Uh, Interestingly, this one is definitely very much set in the present day of the time, right? I mean, obviously
Hmm.
we've had lots of stories. Even the next one, when Rod Serling comes out at the end and talks about it, is
Not
set.
on the CBS site.
It's
What are you
set.
doing to me, CBS?
It's set in a period of history. So, and we've done that before. We've definitely done stories set during like a certain war or set during a whatever time period. But this one is actually set in the present day. In that, what they're kind of talking about, essentially, we're talking about the Cold War. We're talking about missile
Hmm.
crisis and all that. In fact, when did this episode air? Because the Cuban Missile Crisis wasn't far off. No, I saw a lot because Cuban Missile Crisis was 62, right?
Sure, sure.
I want to say that was 62. This aired in September 1961. So, but I mean, it
Yeah, but
shows that
what
even
what are
before
you
that,
doing with the date thing?
yeah, but it shows that even before that crisis, clearly this was still the atmosphere. This was still in the air. This was still what people were thinking about. They were still scared of it.
Right.
Before that crisis. So it's definitely baked in the time that it was made. But
Yes,
shockingly,
62.
yeah, but shockingly has not aged at all, despite that, because the actual cause of the bomb is kind of irrelevant. All the human drama here is
It's
what
just
it's
from
at.
panic.
Yeah,
Yeah. What people will do if they're backed in a corner.
yeah, and
Mhm.
it's a cold, hard truth. And hopefully, anyone who watches this episode will vow to be a little bit better and maybe be a little bit more sympathetic, empathetic, and understanding.
Right.
We can hope. After all, is that the point of science fiction, to shine a light on things that we otherwise might not notice or think about, and hopefully make us change?
Right. That's the Twilight Zone version of humanity. Let's make the real version better.
2020 is not giving me much hope, I have to admit, but but yes, that's the hope in the end game. Yes. Uh,
Right.
so like I said, Rod Serling did come out at the end. I almost said Ron Swanson there just because we were joking about different rods. No, he's a Rod. He's a Ron Swanson, but close enough. So yeah, the next one's set just after the Civil War. That's what he said at the end. But I'll read you the description here. The title is called "The Passerby." Sorry, "The Passersby." While heading home, a Confederate soldier meets an anguished woman at the end of the Civil War. A Confederate soldier. Okay.
Mm.
working hard for my sympathy with this one, but we'll
All
go.
right.
We'll go with it. Maybe it's got something interesting to say. Wait, is that a? Hold on. That looks like an Abraham Lincoln in the thumbnails.
Yeah, Lincoln's in this one.
Well, we did an episode based around the assassination last season, so why not? In fact,
is this one also by Rod? Yep.
Yeah. Actually, this is the third time because season 1 had that episode where like the guardian angel showed up looking like Abraham Lincoln. Remember the trumpet one?
Yes. Yes.
So this is the third time that Abraham Lincoln has been directly used in some capacity, either as himself or based around his actual life.
Americans love Lincoln.
You can, of course, hit the like button. Liking super important. It is the easiest and cheapest way to support us, and it's very, very useful because it lets YouTube know that you think we're worth watching, and it'll put us in the algorithm in a much better place, and all of that's good. You can also support us financially, can't you, Tara?
That's right. If you enjoy our reviews, please check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MalfuzzTV. And if you donate as low as $1 per month, you will get access to bonus episodes of other shows we do, including the Atomic Cinema Experiment, our science fiction movie review show. And if you donate $5 per month, you will get access to these Twilight Zone reviews 1 week early. So please check it out. Thank you.
Boom, flawless. Quite frankly,
That's right.
I can't find anything to fault in it. So, which is what flawless means.
Yep. Along with these Twilight Zone critiques, you get a critique of my delivery.
Only because it became such a running gag that you kept messing it up.
Oh, I will. I will continue.
So, yeah, also catch us on Twitter at mild_fuzz for channel updates. But otherwise, that is it. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys, in the Twilight Zone.